It is Monday, the 9th day of December 2024. There we go. This is the third iteration of this particular episode um, because of illness and because I hate technology. I say, I say that rather loosely because, in all seriousness, it's given me a platform to spew garbage into a microphone, but when I want it to work, it just doesn't seem to work. And the way things are going today, who the fuck knows if this is actually going to come out? So this could end up being condensed or just scrapped or whatever. But the problem is, I'm not going to be around next week, and I was really hoping to get last week's episode out like on Wednesday, but I ran into so many fucking problems. Then I got a nasty cold. You can still hear it, little, nasally. Yeah, well, not nasally, but stuffy, congested, miscellaneous phlegm. So there'll be some sniffling, maybe a cough or two. The good stuff. The stuff that you come to expect from a professional outfit such as this. I had multiple segments lined up, ready to go. Um, but it just, like I said, didn't really work out. I was gonna talk about trans volleyball, eggs, Hunter Biden, Seth Moulton, snack foods, bunch of shit. I may still touch on that crap, but other things that come up like rainbow shoelaces, Charlie Brown, Syria, Jay Z. Oh, and that CEO that got murdered too. That came up. So listen, sit back, relax, take a load off, and enjoy episode number 169. Nice ish of complaints and observations.
Still, a voyage into the mundane and an exercise in futility. Swimming in the absurd while drowning in unearned self-importance. Entirely unworthy of your time. It is the world's worst podcast. This is Complaints and Observations with Dave LaPointe. Who the hell is Dave LaPointe?
I think he's a bum. I think he's an absolute bum.
Yeah, this fucking, I don't know. I mean, it can't be my laptop. I guess it could, but I don't fucking know. This thing is just not, it's not cooperating at all. Um, so, fuck. So what's going on? Hope you all had a nice week. All three of you. Um, shortly ago, what? West Ham played the Wolverhampton Wanderers in a battle of which manager is going to get sacked at the end of the game. Well, West Ham managed to win, which is good. I would like a new manager, but they're not going to fire him if he's winning. So he gets a stay of execution for another week. So that was exciting for a Monday afternoon, right? Also, reasonably exciting is that the guy who killed in cold blood, in broad daylight, the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, the suspect has been named, caught. His name is Luigi Mangione. Instantly, I thought, any relation to Chuck? I'm sure we'll find out. But he got caught at a fucking McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Altoona, Pennsylvania. Really, asshole? Oh, this is going to be bad. Why did I make the decision to start doing this again? Anyways, that McDonald's in Altoona seems one of your employees is a fucking snitch, so watch out. You don't get paid enough to snitch. At the same time, I hope that person gets every single fucking dime of this collective $60,000 in reward money that was posted by the FBI and the NYPD. The NYPD is like, oh, a $10,000 reward. Do you not read the room? You fucking idiots. Hello? Anyway, this kid had meticulously planned this whole thing. I mean, and of course, if he wasn't stupid, which look, just to do this is stupid, but it's like, how did he get caught? Because like most guys, he was thinking with his dick and pulled his mask down while he was flirting with some hostile employee. So the McDonald's employee recognized him and snitched. Now, listen, I'm not going to say that Brian Thompson deserved to be shot in cold blood on a New York City sidewalk because that's not it. I think he did deserve some kind of punishment for just being a complete and total piece of shit, for caring more about company profits than human lives. But that's not how the American healthcare system works. The goal of the American healthcare system is not healthcare, it's to make money. That's it. And, I have some loose background in healthcare, having worked in nursing homes for an extended period of time. And so I got to see some of this shit up close and the amount of hoops that these people had to jump through. And I had like the easy stuff because these were people that were never leaving a nursing home and that were likely going to die in a nursing home. That was the easy part. It's the part who hadn't got to that point yet that was difficult, having to deal with approvals not just from Medicare but from secondary health insurance companies like United or Blue Cross or some of the other ones that were around. Fuck, I don't know how many years ago now. Fuck, how long ago was that? Jesus, 10 years. So it sucks. It's awful. At the same time, though, I'm not going to feel too much sorrow for the fact that he's passed. I feel bad for his kids. Apparently, he had kids. Not sure how good of a dad he was. Him and his wife had been separated or living apart or whatever for a number of years, but that's not for me to judge. He knew what he was doing, and his only goal was to satisfy his shareholders and to line his own pockets while caring nothing about human beings. That's it. It's the sad reality. That's about how 98% of business in this country operates, and that's a fact that we'll never ever get away from. Luigi here took it upon himself to try to enact some sort of change, and while I wouldn't do it how he did it, that's how he did it. And I, for one, am going to be curious what this manifesto says. Seems he was a bit harsh on old Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. Only gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so we'll see. The reaction to all of this has been split, just like everything else in this fucking country these days. But I think ultimately more people were in the camp of simply not caring that this guy got offed. I mean, some of the stories you hear about United Healthcare and just how shitty they are, and then you hear stories about employees of United Healthcare having to tell, you know, insurers, people that are insured by this company, that they're not going to get approved. 32%. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I read a quote from Luke O'Neill, who's a Boston area writer, who has uh, a rather depressing Substack called Welcome to Hell World. I find it mostly interesting. Sometimes he writes some shit and you're like, oof, all right, I'm all set. But he said, quote, "I do not celebrate this man's death. I simply mourn for all the millions of others who have been made to die, been killed, in fact, by companies like his. People whose white-collar killers are often never even blamed, never mind held accountable," end quote. And I thought that was the closest thing to how most people feel. You're going to have people that are just, outright, "I'm glad this guy's dead. Fuck this guy." All right, well, it's kind of a, a twisted way to live. But if that's how you want to live, so be it. But 32% of all claims submitted to United Healthcare were denied in 2023. 32%. Think how staggering that is. And then when it's like almost double the next highest insurer denial rate, almost double, 32%. That's insane. Like the whole, it's so fucking stupid that this is how we're forced to live. And that sounds a bit dramatic, right? And admittedly so. But I mean, I'm very lucky as of right now to not be in a position where I have to deal with this shit. There are lots of people that I know that are, lots of people that I knew that were, and it sucks. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like why do sick people have to fight to get help? Like how is that a thing in this country? You're going to force sick people, their families, to fight you over, medication, surgery, aftercare, whatever you name it. You have to fight with them, and it's probably going to happen to all of us at some point. And if you don't think it's going to happen to you, well, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this program because apparently you are independently wealthy beyond what you possibly think is independent wealth. But that 32%, there could be hundreds of Brian Thompsons and hundreds of Luigi Mangionis. But shit like that will never stop. And for what? What's the point? To give people who already have too much fucking money even more fucking money? Greed will never end. It's a never-ending illness. It's not the right word for it, but you know what I mean. And you'll never ever hear about that 32% denial rate from a certain segment of the bourgeoisie. They'll scream about the alleged 20 or so deaths caused by immigrants, but not about the tens of thousands of their fellow red-blooded Americans who die each year because of denied services. Tens of thousands. And that's not even like talking about the people who just don't have health insurance. That's tens of thousands more. The NYPD and the FBI working tirelessly day and night to find Luigi because it was the killer of a CEO. But if it was a regular Joe, who knows if those services may have been allocated elsewhere. We don't know. We can assume. We don't know for sure. Also, I just saw that crime in New York City overall is down over 21% since 2001. That's just fucking crazy. 21%. It's another story for another day, but big bad city, dangerous New York. Ooh. That's what they want you to think. In the end, right? I am not defending Luigi's actions, not by any stretch. But I understand. In other news, over the course of the last couple of weeks, more people afraid of genitalia or perceived genitalia, which is something that I simply cannot fathom. I can't fathom giving a single shit about what someone may or may not have between their legs. Don't get it. Never will get it. Quite frankly, it's just something that is lost on me. And I don't understand how other people don't feel the same way. It has zero bearing on my life. Zero. None. But yet, here's another fucking story. There's two. There's San Jose State volleyball, women's volleyball. Allegedly, apparently, there is a trans woman who is on that team. One of her own teammates and some other people who have, like an assistant coach or something, filed suit. Some sort of Title IX thing with the NCAA. I didn't really get too deep into it because, again, it's just stupid, right? If here's my thing about women's sports and in trans women getting into it, right? You don't see you had that swimmer, Leah Thompson, right? And she was setting all kinds of records in the fucking Ivy League. What are we trying to say that previously the long storied history of Ivy League women's sports, women's swimming is such that it's so sacred. Stop. Like no one cares or cared about Ivy League women's swimming until Leah Thompson. No one gave a shit. And guess what? No one gives a shit now because it's over. It's all fake. It's fake outrage. So now we have San Jose State women's volleyball in the Mountain West Conference. You have teams forfeiting matches in the conference tournament. And it's not as if San Jose State is head and shoulders better than every team. They were a second seed and they had lost 7 matches throughout the course of the year. So it's not as if they were this juggernaut. I could see if they had a problem if there was one, if you knew who it was, and two, who it was so physically more dominant than everyone else. But it was fairly certain that that wasn't the case because if you just take a look at the roster, I counted 7 women over 5'10". So if there's one that's like 6'3", what are you going to do? Are you going to call her out for being trans because she's taller than everyone else? So is that you're going to start complaining about that? Oh, well, she's too tall. She has a significant advantage. It's a thing that if I'm, say, an opponent of San Jose State, wouldn't you want to just go out there and beat their ass? And then say, well, fuck it. We didn't need a trans athlete. Not that it fucking matters. But, like, wouldn't you want that more than quitting? But there were so many teams that just flat out quit because they didn't want to, potentially face a trans athlete who they seem to think is an actual man. It's just so it's petty, it's dumb, and that's my biggest problem with it, right? Because it just has no bearing on anyone's life outside of San Jose State's women's volleyball team, and maybe the rest of the Mountain West. But again, it's not as if this person was so dominant that you could say that she was causing a disadvantage. But that's the spin they were giving. So instead of just saying we don't like trans people, it's like, oh, here's what we're gonna say. It's just, I just, and again, it kind of goes in line with so many other things that I'm just not, I'm not sure how human beings can feel this way. And it's just like, how many are there? Nobody knows how many there are. And again, you don't have trans women athletes that are so unbelievably dominant that you could say that they're causing some kind of problem in an actual sport that anyone cares about. Women's volleyball, unless you live in Nebraska, nobody fucking cares. So stop. Stop the fake outrage. There's no need for it. Uh, and you know what I don't want to say? I don't want to say something stupid like, just let them live. But that's accurate. Like, they've done nothing to you for you to get upset about. Nothing. And the worst part is like, then there's Seth Moulton, who's a U.S. rep in all places, out of Salem, Mass. Salem, Mass is one of the weirdest places, not just in Massachusetts, but on Earth. Not to say that everyone that lives in Salem is weird. That's not it. But it's just weird. Like Seth Moulton, the guy, went and fought for this country, took bullets for this country. But he'll draw the line at a girl with a cock. Like, figure that out. And they're all so petrified for their children, as if their children are going to give a fuck. Because eventually they're not going to fucking care. Unless you raise them to be little hate mongers, they're not going to care. Oh well, I don't want my children playing sports with men. Like, that's not it. And it's the weird thing, but that they have this. I don't know. Why do I fucking care so much? Why do I care? Just it. They're so fucking afraid of everything. Everything is the fucking boogeyman to these people. And I don't even dislike Seth Moulton. It's just this particular take is so fucking stupid. His whole general take really was that the Democratic Party needs to stop trying to placate to everybody. And he is 10,000% correct. You're going to piss people off. And that's fine. It's okay. If you want to piss people off, go for it. But you need to have like the general sort of appeal to get elected. You want to know why? Because it's all fucking game. It's all theater. But he's not wrong in that case. But in this thing, like, I mean, is he going to complain about everything that might happen to his kids? Like, he's worried about shit that hasn't happened, which is the worst way to live. And I should know because that's how I live my fucking life, worried about shit that hasn't happened. And I've tried so fucking hard to not be that person. So fucking hard. But so many of these fucking people are just so concerned about shit that might happen. The slim chance that his kid may or may not interact with someone. And that's the other thing too. Like, what interaction do these people have with them? None. I keep saying them like it's a thing, but it's not. They're just people. They're humans. Just stop. Like, fucking, like, take a beat, take a deep breath, and just realize, like, look, they're human beings. They're just trying to live their lives just like you're trying to live yours. Stop impeding on them. There's no point in being a fucking asshole. Going through life being a prick is no way to live. But apparently that's not the case for some people. What do I know? nothing fun to talk about today. This is a fucking awful. I think I've cursed 20,000 times in this episode. Uh, what am I doing? What's some other shit that's gone on? Somebody seems to think that DB Cooper has been identified. That's interesting. Do a little deep dive on that. That's fun. Guy thinks that because he found a uh, parachute, it's the same rig, is the quote that he used. The same rig. I didn't know. Like, they found a bunch of this guy's money years ago. And so, I think eventually you're going to find some remains at some point. But they tried to say that the guy that they're trying to say is DB Cooper lived and then died in a gunfight a handful of years later after committing a very similar crime. I've talked about DB Cooper on the show before. I find him a bit fascinating. Interesting, maybe. Who knows? Um, we could talk about Hunter Biden, I guess. I mean, I don't. I can't imagine why anyone would be at all surprised about this. Like, of course he's gonna fucking pardon his son. It's his son. I mean, the charges were minimal, and the whole thing was a fucking dog and pony show. So we pardoned the guy. Whatever. I'm curious to see how many people he pardons between now and the 20th of January. There's no way he comes close to what Trump did in his first term, where he pardoned over 200 people. And I think you're going to have people saying that Biden pardoned way more because he essentially wiped out uh, you know minor marijuana charges. So essentially, those are what's the word? Commutation, I think, where they just kind of end their sentence. But this is how this fucking game goes. Like a bunch of people that Trump pardoned in his first term, they're going to be in his fucking cabinet now. Some of these people. So don't sit here and fucking and say that it's bullshit that Hunter Biden got fucking pardoned, because that's not it. If Trump's kid got busted, he would have been pardoned 2 days later. Yeah, it's just so fucking stupid. Like, politics in this country so dumb. So many people are so fucking dumb. Oh boy. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays. Because it's not going to be. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's all going to be stupid. Though not as stupid as Juan Soto getting $756 million from the Mets, from the New York Metropolitans. There was no way the Mets were going to be outbid. No way in fucking hell. Like, I don't know. Maybe I haven't watched enough Juan Soto. Is this like his fifth team? And the only reason he got moved around is because he's a Boris guy and he wasn't going to sign an extension. It was like, oh, we're going to free agency. Scott Boris is another one of these motherfuckers. That guy is disgustingly rich, good at what he does, and nope, sorry, great at what he does. Is that I don't dislike the guy for trying to get the most money. That's how the game works. What I do dislike is now, like that's the market now. 756. Like, and you're gonna try to tell me that this kid's better than Otani? Nope. No way in fucking hell. You know who else? He's not even better than Mookie Betts. Sorry, you're not. Mookie's a better hitter, a better outfielder, probably a bit faster. And the Red Sox were thinking about paying this guy $500 million. The $300 million for Mookie, 4 years ago was just no way that was going to happen. Foolish. I can't wait for Sam Kennedy to come out. Well, we made a representative offer. We made a strong offer. You didn't. You shouldn't even have been talking to the kid. You should have been focusing your energy elsewhere because you knew it wasn't going to happen. The minute you heard New York Mets, that should have been it. Should have been it. Because they were going to overpay, and that's exactly what happened. Overpaid. Good for the Mets. If they win a World Series title, it'll be worth it. But since they're the Mets, they won't, so it won't be worth it. Endlessly fascinating. And it just I gotta stop caring. I've said this before. I gotta stop caring about salaries in sports. I have to stop caring. Like what how useful is that to regular fans? It's not. It's not at all useful. Yet we hear about it all the time as if it's very important. Baffling. Lastly, there was a picture of RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is going to be the Health and Human Services Secretary. He was sitting in an airport with no shoes on and his feet on the floor. I hope he got ringworm. I can't figure out the appeal of that guy. Is it his last name? I mean, is that it? Because he's a Kennedy? Because his father is probably rolling in his grave, if that was something that was at all possible. But again, what do I know? Nothing. All right, we'll bring this fucking bullshit to its merciful conclusion, as it is time for three gripes. Three gripes. Gripe number one: Charlie Brown, etc. So it seems that this holiday season, none of the usual holiday programming that all of us um, grew up with or had over the course of the last 40 years or so is going to be on network television. So Charlie Brown Christmas, Frosty the Snowman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Not on traditional network TV. Nope. Because apparently, network executives they no longer see the value in giving 22 whole minutes to Rudolph or to Frosty. Because why? Why? Why sacrifice a few bucks to make a few kids happy? Why would you do that? You know what else I haven't seen? Is the fucking Fruity Pebbles commercial with Fred and Barney and Santa Claus. Haven't seen it. This will be the first time in at least 35 years, I would say, that I haven't seen that on television. There's still time. Haven't seen it yet. If you've seen it, I'd love to know. 617-804-1557. But I mean, honestly, what are we doing here? Oh God, it's just it's so stupid to not put that shit on TV. You mean to tell me that the CW couldn't sacrifice a couple of spots on a Friday night, which is where it had been Not the CW, but I don't know. What's UPN up to these days? But no, it's on Apple TV. Fuck off with this streaming bullshit. Like I find myself getting older, not just by the day, but by the minute. Because I feel like I'm on an island with some things. And maybe streaming is another one of these things because I just don't fucking care. Like it's easy, but it's like why you know what's gonna happen is they're all gonna get together and you're gonna have to buy like one bundle, and then it's just why couldn't we just do go back to cable? Because it's gonna be the same fucking thing. It's so stupid. I've probably said that aside from cursing 18,000 times, including 17,000 F bombs. I've probably said it's so stupid at least a dozen times. And to not show these programs that have been on the air for as long as they have on just regular network TV is fucking stupid. Gripe number 2, organ donation. What happens if you have literally nothing of any value? Ponder that question because I'm thinking about myself and I'm like, poof, there's nothing nothing works. Like, this is a fucking trash heap of a unit that I'm carrying. See, brain don't work, mouth don't work. This is a trash heap of a unit I'm fucking carrying around. This skin sack, but I've got that little heart on my license that says when I go, you can farm my insides. Huh? Isn't that exciting? And finally, gripe number 3, porn. There's nothing wrong with porn, okay? Except an instance that I had happen the other day. I'm driving home from work last week, and there is a blue Honda something or other, uh, not driving erratically, but just an annoying driver. And I happen to glance over, and now we're like side by side. This kid has his fucking phone propped up to his left. So like in his like driver's side window vent is the little thing that holds your phone propped up. Fucking clear as day. This kid is watching porn on his phone while he's driving on Route 93. And look, you can say that it wasn't porn, but I know what porn looks like. And that was porn. There are times for pornography. Driving during rush hour on a very busy highway is not a time for porn. If you get to that stage in life, you need help, legitimate help, because you are twisted. You are one sick, twisted fuck. I could not. I mean, I probably would have caused a larger accident glancing back to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm actually seeing because I was stunned at this. And that's how we'll end the program. 617 804 1557. Feel free to call in, Share your thoughts, your agreements, your disagreements. Tell your friends. I was really hoping to have a guest at some point. I know my dear friend, associate producer Dave, introduced me to a friend of his who was a lawyer. So I was like, "Ooh, all right, we could talk about law. That's fine. Look, I like interesting people." And Dave has not he hasn't steered me wrong yet. So I was hopeful. I sent him a link to the show and I never heard back from the kid. Smart. That's a smart young man. You don't want to get mixed up in this crap. But with that said, there probably will be no show next week unless I decide to do something at the end of the week. But I am going to be away. Uh, the sort of what's become basically like a yearly time off in December, it seems, for myself and my darling wife. So no show next week. Maybe a couple of clips on the old Instagram. Probably not, because that would require some effort and some work to do something I don't really know how to do. This is such a low effort production here. So, but that'll do. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm probably going to be down to 2 listeners by the time this one's over. But that's all right. Again, I make content for an audience of 1, and I'm talking. I have a Instagram page at Complaints Pod. I'm on Threads at Complaints Pod. I'm on Facebook, but fuck Facebook. You can find the show on a variety of different platforms: Amazon, Apple, Spotify. By the way, Spotify, not good, but I've talked about that before. But yeah, but listen, that'll do. As always, I ask, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Godspeed. Ta ta.